One of the ways to make an object or surface glow in KeyShot is to assign it an emissive material. To do this, we can click on the object and change the material type from plastic to emissive. We now have an emissive material, but it's blue. By clicking on the color, we can then select this dropdown and change it from RGB to Kelvin. Doing this will allow us to target realistic color temperatures. After adjusting the color temperature towards the warm side, let's make the color brighter and less saturated. We've successfully applied an emissive material, but even if we increase the intensity, it still doesn't appear to glow. There's a few things we could do. For starters, let's make the environment darker. By selecting into our environment tab, we can decrease the brightness of our HDRI lighting. And look at that. By contrast, our lamp now appears much brighter. The only thing is, it's still missing a glow around the edges. To create this effect, we'll want to navigate over to our Image tab and click the box next to Bloom. Bloom is the secret sauce to making things look like they're glowing. But as you can see here, the lamp still doesn't look any different. We'll need to increase the bloom intensity to 1 or even 2. After this, we need to increase the bloom radius. As we do this, you can start to see the glow take effect. I'll adjust this to 30 pixels. Voila! We now have the desired effect. Only issue is now everything looks rather blurry. To see what's going on here, I'm going to go back into our environment tab and make sure our scene is bright again. Bloom is a post-processing effect designed to mimic how real-world cameras or eyes respond to very bright light. KeyShot simulates this by taking the brightest pixels in your render and spreading their light outward. The problem is if we don't limit which pixels are considered bright, Bloom will treat the entire image as if it were glowing. To solve this issue, we can go back into our bloom settings and adjust the bloom threshold value. This allows us to define what counts as being bright enough to receive bloom.
We've just built a glowing lamp that looks like the one you see here. But what if we want our lamp to look more like this example? After placing these side by side, notice the difference. The lamp on the left appears bright and evenly lit. This is just like the lamp we illuminated in KeyShot Studio. The lamp on the right shows a more natural fall off in both color and intensity. By sampling the color at the center of the lamp and then moving outward, we can illustrate how the intensity decreases and the color temperature changes. This effect in real life results from concepts we'll cover later in this project. But for now, let's return to KeyShot Studio to recreate this effect using an emissive light.
To recreate what we just covered, let's double click onto our original emissive light and drag it over to paste onto the middle lamp. After right clicking and unlinking the material, we can begin to modify this material.
To modify this material further, we'll need to utilize the material graph. The material graph is a more advanced way of controlling materials in KeyShot, where you connect different nodes together to fine-tune how a material behaves. We aren't quite ready to dive into it fully just yet, so don't worry if it looks intimidating. For now, we are going to cover one specific thing: how to manipulate our emissive light material.
After opening the material graph, the first thing we'll want to do is move the window over to the side so that we can see how our changes affect the scene. Let's click and drag these nodes over to make space for an additional one. Let's right-click in the empty space so that we can add in a color gradient texture node. Alternatively, we can press the spacebar to access the color gradient. We don't need that second one though, so let's click and delete it. By clicking into the color gradient, we can modify the hue of the gradient stops. Once again, let's utilize the Kelvin color mode to select a warmer color temperature. We'll do the same for the other gradient stop on the left, except we'll choose a hue much closer to white. Finally, click and drag the connector on the color gradient and drag and drop this over the color channel. What we need to do next is click the drop down next to gradient type and choose view direction. This setting maps values based on the camera angle, so the gradient shifts as you move around the object. No matter how you orbit the camera, the gradient always reorients itself to face the viewer. To finish setting this material up, let's reopen the material graph and adjust the gradient stopper on the left to dial in the look we're going for. Lastly, after copying our new emissive material to the rest of the lamps, we've now successfully made our lamps glow. But don't lamps illuminate their surroundings? Look at our scene, everything around the lamps is still dark. This is because we used an emissive material to make our lamps look like they're glowing.
Emissive materials are best used when you want the glow to be the effect, not the main source of illumination. For example, using an emissive material would be best used for things like a screen on a product, or for products with glowing elements, such as a power button, a numeric display, or other illuminated details.
Now that we have a better understanding of when to use emissive lights and when to use area lights, let's change our lamp's material type to area light. We can immediately see how much more light our lamps give off after switching to an area light. To give us a subtle bump in global illumination, we can navigate to the Lighting tab to switch to the Interior preset. We can also initiate the photographic style, increasing the exposure, and switching to the High Contrast preset. We can improve the look of our scene by adjusting the contrast slider and setting the value to 0.175.